dealing with a falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Shift to Reason Radio, the Brainstorm production where each of us takes a dip of a beat dive.
What?
A bit of a deep dive.
A dip of a beat dive.
You don't have to read it exactly as it appears, Donald Trump.
Into our topic of the month, using critical thinking, compassion, and skepticism. I'm Cory, and my panel tonight are Lisa.
Still me.
And Destin.
Not me.
And we are in Lisa's apartment in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is April 12th, 2019. Remember, if you want to contact us about the show, then you can do that by emailing us at mail@brainstormblog.net. And if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast.
Can they Snapchat at us?
Or you can call Cory at area code 306-861.
This is not live. Cory will edit it later anyways.
Yeah.
If you base medicine on science, you cure people. If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works, bitches.
Yes, science!
But it's Lisa's science segment.
Oh, me. Oh, man, I should be more organized. Okay, hang on. So maybe should we start with the black hole because that's better?
Sure.
Because it's easier, really, in a way. Okay, so...
In the Eye of Sauron?
Yeah.
Kind of,
Totally
yeah.
looks like it. It's awesome.
I mean, that's just kind of the color scheme. Anyways, so...
I get it.
Yeah, so my favorite galaxy, M87, has a supermassive black hole at the center of it. It's actually a galaxy that I studied, one of the galaxies I studied in my PhD. And I've had people ask me this week, oh, I heard that they just discovered the first black hole ever. No. We've known about lots and lots and lots of black holes. This is the first image of a black hole they've ever taken. Okay, and then I have this friend, an astronomer on Facebook, who's like, you can't take a picture of a black hole. Everyone's saying this makes no sense. Okay, what they did is it's the first image of an event horizon of a black hole. So a black hole, by definition, is an astronomical object.
Right.
Yeah. From which light cannot escape. And so the black hole itself is a singularity, meaning it's basically of infinite density and infinitely small. And then there's a region around it where the gravity is so strong that it literally pulls the light back and light cannot escape. Light travels at a certain speed in all reference frames, and it can't get out of the black hole. But just beyond that point, especially for M87, because it's the active galactic nucleus of a galaxy, there's actually a bunch of gas around it, and it's heated by the gravity as it swirls onto the black hole. Okay. And that ring of gas around it is what they imaged.
The burning ring of fire.
Burning ring of fire. But it's actually a superheated ring of plasma. Yeah. I don't even know how hot it is. I don't know. They're looking at it in radio, so that's not... Actually, I have a graph. Hang on. There's a graph. I'm looking at it on the American Astronomical Society's page.
About 40 degrees.
Brightness temperature. Yeah, it's like...
Fahrenheit or Celsius.
It's in billions of Kelvin, so that's hot. It's in billions of Kelvin. Yeah, it is superheated. It's very hot.
So just above freezing.
Billions of Kelvin. We live at 200 and...
So like 6 degrees?
We live at like 300 Kelvin. Okay, like that's room temperature, 300 Kelvin. 0 is absolute 0. Billions of Kelvin.
Like 45 degrees.
Hot. Thank you. Okay, now here's the thing that I think people are missing that I think is just like, not people are missing it, right? But the people but this is what's so cool. Because when I found it, I was like, wow, like what is the resolution of this? So I go and look, and like the diameter of the hole of the event horizon is just under 50 micro arc seconds. So if you're not an astronomer, that means nothing to you. Okay. So basically, the way astronomers measure things on the sky is an angular size. So if you hold your finger out about arm's length from you, it subtends an angle of about 1 degree, meaning that it would take an angle of 1 degree to do that. If you put a fist out, that's about, I believe, about 10 degrees, huh?
Well, you went 1 finger up and went 1 degree, so I assume 2 fingers was 2.
Yes, but side by side, they can be separated. That doesn't make any sense. So I think the moon's like 20-ish degrees, right? So if you were to point a finger at one side of the moon, then another finger at the other side of the moon, the angle of your arms would be 20 degrees.
Okay.
So astronomers measure everything in angular size, right? So that's why, I don't know if you've ever done this, be like, oh, Destin's head is this big. I'm like using my fingers and I'm squishing his head, right? So Destin's head is so many degrees. Oh, but Selah's head is much smaller because she's farther away. So astronomers know that
12 versus 24 or something.
Huh?
Yeah.
Right. So the size that something appears in the sky is a function of only 2 things: its actual size and how far away it is. Right. Okay. Generally speaking, but that's actually pretty much it for our purposes. So, but we measure I shouldn't say we anymore. I'm not really an astronomer anymore, but measure everything in angular size. So
it's okay for you to identify as an astronomer.
You're still an astronomer.
You get to identify that way. That's awesome. So, 50 microarc seconds is very, very, very small. The resolution of the Hubble Space Telescope images that I used for my PhD, and that's at the time that was considered extremely good resolution, was 0.1 arc seconds. But we're talking about 0.00005 arc seconds.
Very precise.
Yeah, so the 5 was at the 5th decimal place there. So very, very precise. So what does that mean? I did some math yesterday because I was so excited and I knew I was going to talk about it on the podcast. So they've been saying that, it's like taking a picture of a golf ball on the moon, which, okay, that's true, but that's hard for most humans to even I don't really have a sense for how far away the moon is. Okay. So if, let's say we're in Canada and you're standing in Vancouver on the West Coast, okay, and you've got a friend standing in Halifax on the East Coast, okay, and let's negate the curvature of the Earth to make the flat earthers happy. So let's say,
doesn't exist.
Right.
So you have a clear line of sight to your friend. Your friend, if you were using the EHT, it was emitting in radio waves, but by this method, basically, this degree of this 50 microarc second resolution, it means your friend is moving their finger 1 millimeter, and you can see the difference between here and there, that 1 millimeter motion from one coast to the other coast. That's what that means. That's what they were able to do. That's why that is so insane. It's insane. So the way they were able to do this is using a technique. Oh, sorry. Did you want to explain it all? I'm sorry. Okay.
Explain the group of telescopes that were used. That's fine.
I was actually going to explain something called interferometry.
Oh, you go ahead.
But it's true that, in order to do that, they used a group of telescopes. So when you use something like the Hubble Space Telescope, optical telescopes, it's like a digital camera. It's very intuitive. We understand kind of how that works. You take a picture, the light falls on a bunch of CCDs, which is like a grid of light buckets. Okay. And you count how many how many photons, how many light particles hit each bucket, and then you build up a picture, right? Okay. It's a very intuitive way of thinking. Interferometry is totally different. I took a 2-week course in Europe when I was in grad school on interferometry of AGN. So literally before they even started this project, this techniques used to do this, and I still honestly barely understand it. Okay. But when you have long wavelengths, so like microwaves and radio waves, it becomes possible, because it doesn't work with shorter wavelengths. It's really hard. It's just too hard to do. The wavelengths are way too small. But with longer wavelengths, what you can do is you can take images with multiple telescopes and take the light from those telescopes and interfere the light. So the light, they're waves, and you can imagine that when they superimpose on top of each other, something happens to that. And then you do some math called Fourier transforms, and you work in Fourier space to do a bunch of fancy things, and then you can come out with a very high resolution image. So one radio telescope, the bigger the radio telescope, the better the resolution, but the smaller the field of view, the smaller what you can see when you're pointing. So when you think of a radio telescope, you think of say the movie Contact, and she's sitting on the hood of the car and listening. There's a whole array of radio telescopes behind her. That's why they do that with radio telescopes. Just one radio telescope pointing at something is limited, right? Because the field of view is crappy, and you have to make it really, really huge to get any sort of resolution. And the resolution still isn't great, especially compared to optical light, light you can see. But when they take an array of telescopes, basically the telescope is the size from one telescope on one end of the array to the farthest other side of the array. There's a there's a new array of submillimeter and radio telescopes in Chile called ALMA, which is getting a lot of traction. It's really, really important scientifically right now. And they can actually physically move the array to like along tracks to make it bigger or smaller depending on what wavelength they're looking at, what they want to do.
Really cool.
Yeah, it is really, really cool. It's in the Atacama Desert in Chile at 14,000 feet. Like it's crazy. It's very cool science they're doing. That was one of the telescopes they used for this project. But basically what they did in this, they did something called very long baseline interferometry, VLBI, and they took telescopes and basically they made the baseline of this telescope the entire world. And they just took telescopes from around the world and used that as one giant array.
Wow.
And then they combine the data from that. This is a technique called interferometry. They're doing their Fourier transform, blah, blah, blah. They do all their fancy math and all their algorithms to get it together and make a picture. So that's what they did. So it's super cool. You can really only do it with radio and microwaves. You can't really do it with any other kinds of light.
Wasn't it done with like the 8 largest radio arrays?
I don't know if it was the largest, but it was certainly among the most prominent radio and submillimeter telescopes that there are in the world. Yeah, it's just
really cool.
Yeah, series of. So I mean, this is a collaboration of like hundreds of scientists. Interestingly, I was scrolling through all the names in the paper just to see if I knew anybody, and I was like, oh, I don't know anybody. I don't know. Oh, fuck. The only person I know in this whole list is the asshole who argued with me misogynistically at a conference like 10 years ago. Fuck that guy. But anyways, but it's funny. Anyways, should I guess said his name, but whatever. Here. I'm sure he doesn't listen to this, and if he does, he's probably telling me to fuck off too. Probably. But yeah, just one. Can I say?
Published, so it's public. Who cares?
Can I say one last thing?
Yeah.
I don't mean to slander him. Okay, but anyways, we didn't get along, and he probably doesn't remember me. So I'm sure I was very insignificant to him. There's been a little bit of controversy in the media over this, coming out of this as well. So there are 200 people in the team, but one team member that they've been highlighting, the team has been highlighting in the media a lot, is a young researcher named Katie Bowman. Hope I'm saying her name right, or Bauman. I don't know. So she is a grad student at MIT, and she wrote some of the code that actually made the final combination of the images. And there's a kind of a famous picture. She posted it on Facebook, but then it kind of went around of the moment her code worked and she saw the first picture of the black hole. And there's the look on her face. It's a beautiful picture. You could just see how excited she is, and just so happy for her. And of course, she's not the only person involved with the project,
right.
and nobody said she was, and she never said she was. But then there was actually a whole group of trolls online who started trying to say, oh, you didn't write most of this code. This other guy named, let's see, what's his name? Andrew Chale wrote the vast majority, 850,000 of the 900,000 lines of code, and blah, blah, blah. So Chale actually came up and he explained that the trolls had exaggerated his contributions, and he defended Bauman and said, once I realized that many online commentators were using my name and image to advance a sexist agenda to claim that Katie's leading role in our global team was invented, I felt I should say something to make it clear I rejected that view. He said that what's extra ironic is that he's actually gay himself. So like he says, it's kind of ironic that if you're trying to find a white male to be the one who actually did the work, it's actually not even true, because not only is it not even true, but the gay community is also an underrepresented minority in science. So
yeah, it's
anyways,
not this.
That was kind of funny.
It's not the white cis straight dude that they were hoping to.
Yeah. So, but I don't know how many people are really worried that it's that this young woman was profiled for this. And sure, she wasn't the only team member on this group, and this is really good for her career, obviously. But I think people maybe get jealous, people get weird about it. But long and short of it is, most of her colleagues seem to be supporting her. So if you read a news story that's like, oh well, she didn't really do as much, I don't know why she's being profiled. Well, everyone did something, and she did some important work combining the images, and it's.
If you search her name on YouTube, the top result for any place that isn't the United States is woman does 6% of the work, gets 100% of the credit.
Oh fuck! Anyway, so that may be true. 6% actually over 200 out of 200 people is actually
pretty significant.
A very significant portion actually. But nobody is saying that she did everything. The thing is, when you do a press release like this, it's really hard to
Yeah.
It's not
because I heard other people talking about this on other podcasts and stuff, and she was never the spokesperson that.
Oh, and I don't think she meant to be, but it's true that she did an important contribution. It's just good to put a human face on it, and you could put a human face on any of the people, I'm sure, who did a contribution, except for the old geezers who just had their grad students slaving away on it. But like she really is the face of science. This is what science is. This is what a scientist is, and I think it's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so, just to defend her a little bit.
And that co-worker of hers, that team member,
Andrew Chale.
Yeah, he is a great Twitter follow.
Yeah, he had like 7 tweets about it, and he kind of.
It's a great thread.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, he was lovely. So that. I have another story, but do we want to do Destin's thing first and then me again? Because I talk a lot.
Sure.
Not like Destin.
Fucking what the fucking fuck? Who the fuck? Fuck this fucking. How did you do fucking fucks? Fuck!
Well, it certainly illustrates the diversity of the word.
Let's do Destin's thing.
Destin's got a. What do you got?
Okay. So
He's us.
He's gonna dramatically shuffle papers around.
Like a news anchor.
So you've got a thing.
And now, the rest of the story. Last time I was on the show, Cory and I talked and decided that I tend to be fairly good at doing rants, but I also wanted to approach things a little differently. So I'm doing rants that start off with a positive twist.
Sort of.
So we recently had a convoy and an anti-carbon tax rally. So for those of you that don't know, Justin Trudeau recently, as of April 1st, mandated the carbon tax that he promised would exist in 2015 during his election campaign. He set out on his campaign to put a carbon tax in place, to put a monetary price on emissions. And he essentially gave all the provinces 3.5 years to find their own solution. And this is the result. So we recently had a convoy and anti-carbon tax rally. Good. It's actually a great thing. I'm glad it happened. Here's why.
To describe what the convoy is for those who don't know.
It was a convoy of semis, roughly 400 strong.
Driving through our city.
Driving through Regina, and they met in a rally at a big stadium to fight not just carbon tax, but also to try to push forward a pipeline that's really pointless, and a few other things. But here's why the entire rally, the entire anti-carbon tax rally is a good thing. People who would normally never, ever stand up and go to a rally, people who just complain and create toxic environments, actually got together to fight against something they collectively feel is unjust or bad. I'm sure they're wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But they took action. And because they took action, there's something called Newton's third law. So because of their action of having this rally, we're seeing an increase in people who are actually understanding that climate change is real. Now, I say I got that backwards. They are the opposite reaction to people actually understanding that climate change is a real thing. It exists, and we are, at the very least, contributing at a large scale to climate change. We now have someone who just won a Nobel Prize on his work on carbon taxing and how it actually does work. The more these people stomp their feet and cry about climate change not being important, real, our fault, or our problem, the more society will start looking at them for what they really are, anti-taxers. I'll bring your attention to the actual rant part. I like the term anti-taxer. All right, so I'm actually just going to read some excerpts from something that was written by Christopher Bird. He produces a weekly news thing on Facebook and via email through subscription called Bird on Sunday. And this he released at 11:13 a.m. on April 1st. So you don't know much about the carbon tax. Well, today marks the official first day of the federal carbon tax. And if you haven't been aware of this, You've probably seen some Conservative Party higher-ups expounding how it's the death of Canadian civilization on social media somewhere, probably with a picture of them making a solemn face while they pump gas into their car. Because if there's one thing the modern Conservative Party in Canada loathes, is doing anything about climate change. Jason Kenney literally campaigned on bring back the coal plants in Alberta. Most people don't actually know a lot about how the carbon tax works, and why the Carbon Party is bluntly lying unabashedly about it. So, I, Chris Bird, thought I'd take a little bit of time to write something about it people can read and share if you're so inclined. Because it's here, and it's going to be an important issue in the election later this year. And the very first thing he goes into is, but I don't believe in climate change. And he just says, no, sorry, I'm not going to bother with you. This conversation is for adults. Then we move on. It's a tax on everything. So Chris's answer is, my answers to this are A, so what? And B, well, no, it's not. So first off, lots of countries have a tax on everything. In Europe, they're called VATs. Taxes on literally everything you buy, products or services. We have the HST. Here, economic conservatives or libertarian propose what they call the fair tax, or sometimes fair tax. Remember that they usually mean replacing income taxes, which are supposed to hit richer people more severely, with sales taxes, which are fair, except that in practice they end up hitting poor people disproportionately because poor people spend all of their money. Yeah. So the tax everything rhetoric is just that. It's just rhetoric. It's not a tax on everything. But more importantly, it isn't really a tax on everything. Specifically, the federal version of the carbon tax takes two things, fossil fuels and industrial CO2 emitters. The Tories like to pretend that this is everything because it covers most manufactured goods and everything that has to be delivered. But the service sector is the largest part of the Canadian economy, and it doesn't get taxed directly at all. That's an important distinction. When the Conservatives talk about everything costing more, they're pointedly ignoring the individual rebate that is a crucial part of the carbon tax. The tax wonks, I love the fact that they use wonks, at Revenue Canada and Environment Canada have already done a shit ton of work to figure out how much carbon tax every individual will, on average, pay via buying goods that are subject to carbon taxation, either directly like gas or indirectly like buying food that has to be shipped by trucks. It's essentially a bigger scale universal version of the GST credit that works off of carbon. The sort of rhetoric strategy isn't new, because if you ignore the benefits of any new law and only pay attention to the costs, that anything can look expensive. But what if everybody gets a rebate? What's even the point? In one important respect, everybody doesn't get a rebate. Individuals get rebates. Businesses don't. And that's how carbon taxation works. And this example is perfect. And this is probably where I'll end it because we're short on time. But for example, you need to buy a lawnmower. Lawnmower is made in a factory which emits a lot of CO2. So subsequently, the business is charged carbon tax for those emissions and then raise the sticker price of the lawnmower accordingly. In your carbon tax rebate at the end of the year, you get the rebate. So why would anybody change what they're doing? The answer is just free market competition. Let's say that there's a second lawnmower manufacturer out there who refits their factory, so now they're only producing half of a lot of CO2. They get charged less carbon tax, which lets them put a lower sticker price on their lawnmower, which means you and other people are more likely to buy their lawnmowers. So now the first lawnmower company goes, oh crap, nobody's buying our lawnmowers, and refits their factories. So now they're only producing a quarter of a lot of CO2, and they can drop their sticker prices even lower. So that's how the carbon tax is supposed to work. It's not a cash grab by the feds. It's put in place specifically to get manufacturers and companies to reduce the amount of CO2 they use to stay competitive in their own segments. Now, all of the federal carbon tax legislation is, as you might have noticed above, sorry, I'm just reading, it's described as a backstop, which is political talk for in case something doesn't happen. Our carbon tax is a backstop. BC, Quebec, Alberta, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland all have carbon pricing plans that satisfy the federal requirements. Some of them had their own carbon taxes in place before everything happened. Some of them are using a cap and trade program. Some of them are even asking the federal government to use their backstop against large industry while using their own version against smaller companies. The Conservative Party of Canada is sworn to get rid of this carbon tax if they get elected. They're not going to get elected specifically because they swore they'd get rid of the carbon tax.
It strikes me as clearly it's a capitalist answer to climate change. It might not work as effectively as we hope, but in the system that we have right now and having to do something, it seems like we're not left with a lot of other options. And this is supported by experts who study this stuff. So
William Nordhaus, he's the guy that just won a Nobel Prize in economics for proving that putting a price on carbon taxing or putting a price on carbon works.
Right. It proven to reduce emissions.
So in his recent Climate Casino, which is a book that's available on yale.education/book/ a bunch of numbers. Cory will put it in the show notes.
Sure. I'll find it.
Nordhaus argues that pricing of carbon achieves 4 objectives. First, it sends signals to consumers about which goods and services are more carbon intensive. So it makes you more aware of which products are producing more CO2 gases, such as coal burning, and which are less carbon intensive, like solar or wind. It sends signals to propel innovation to find new affordable alternatives. And finally, pricing is the best means to convey these signals within well-functioning markets. The early approaches of Nordhaus have been proven in both more intensive research and real-world experience. Conservative bodies that consistently support well-functioning markets, such as the EOCD, which is the International Monetary Fund, and others have shown carbon pricing is the most effective and least distortionary way to tackle carbon pollution. The WTO, hardly a climate crusader, observed years ago that market-based instruments, led by pricing, have the least distortionary effects on markets, competitiveness, and trade. So it's the least damaging to trade. It's the only approach to climate that doesn't hurt trade and actually improves markets
in the short term, though, doing nothing is the least damaging thing to trade. However, of course, arguing in the long term, if you have no world or humans, that's pretty bad for trade. Anyway, I'm just pointing out
Well, okay, so this guy's been studying this for 3 decades. And he's a world-leading economist.
Well, that's where the conservatives come from, right? Like they don't think there's a problem, or they say cynically that there's no problem to solve, right? So it's only once you assume there's a problem that needs to be solved that this becomes the best solution, right?
But I think in the arguments that he makes that even compared to doing nothing, the carbon taxing is better for the economy right now.
For markets.
Right now, than not doing anything is, because it's forcing change, it's forcing innovation, which always has immediate effects. Like people rushing to the fucking gas tanks to save their 4 cents.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the day before.
Yeah.
It was insane. I went because I needed anyways.
And this is where if I owned a gas station, I would have raised my prices like 20 cents a liter for the day.
Right.
Nope, no carbon tax on our gas. Why are you 20 cents more? Because they can be.
Corporate profits.
No taxes, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways. I feel like the obnoxiousness of the situation was further amplified by those text messages that the Conservative Party sent every cell phone in Saskatchewan and other places, I believe. No. What? A
lot of them, but not everyone.
Not everyone?
Emails from...
I got 2.
From the email from Sask Power and Sask Energy.
Oh, yeah. By the way.
Yeah. Your bill is going up because of carbon tax.
Were they required to send that or no?
I don't know, but it
presumably they
sure had everything that was like blaming Trudeau highlighted in red, and like it was clearly targeted.
Well, I do appreciate the fact that they're right on their bills. They show it as a separate tax.
Yeah, well, I mean,
because I like knowing that I'm paying an extra $1.30 a month for my gas bill.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, one of my coworkers, Steve, calculated his costs on the carbon tax based on how much he drives. His truck doesn't have a car; he's got a truck. Right. Based on the amount of gas they use at home, electricity, their grocery buying and everything, he's estimating it's going to increase his cost by about $200 a year.
Okay,
and he's getting 400 and some back from the carbon credit.
Great. So he's coming out ahead.
Everybody comes out ahead.
I had an argument with my coworker, who told me that
not you,
yeah, he told me that my power bill would double. I laughed and he got very mad at me.
He realizes his power bill won't double. Do you think he'll apologize to you?
Oh no. Nope. I don't expect any apologies anytime.
Maybe he can't multiply by 2 anyways.
Yeah, maybe.
What really pissed me off about the whole thing was the Conservative Party, the Saskatchewan Party, because there's a difference. The Republican Party of Saskatchewan.
Party is more conservative.
The Republican Party of Saskatchewan has been blaming Trudeau the entire time.
Right.
For the carbon tax in Saskatchewan and who it's affecting. When they literally had almost 4 years to come up with literally anything.
Any plan besides
any
it.
Plan.
Yeah.
As long as it met the federal standards.
I mean, they give lip service to climate change at this point, but I think that they still don't even believe it's a real thing.
They're not acting like they do.
Yeah. They sure think that there's nothing that can be done about it. Rather just ignore it.
I don't think it's that they don't believe it's real. I think they just don't care.
More about the short-term help or whatever. There's so much cronyism within that part. I mean, their buddies are going to lose money or whatever. The
Liberal Party has it too.
Huh?
Well, yeah, but
it's just as bad. It's just not as. The Liberal Party has the cronyism just as bad.
It's true.
Sorry, our more centrist party.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Our Conservative Party, our right-wing party, is moving way further to the right, and our left party isn't moving to the left.
No, they're just staying where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I mean, at this point is tantamount to in the narrative, the common narrative.
We're falling off the left side.
We have fallen off of the left of the scale by not moving. Well, I have on purpose gone that far, but that's a whole other thing. The Saskatchewan NDP is pretty reasonable in a lot of ways. Okay.
You want me to do the other story, or are you tired?
Save it for another time.
Save it for another time.
I'd still like to see Elizabeth May win. Not that I like her. I would just like to see the Green Party actually have a chance.
Why don't you like Elizabeth May? I like her because when she says things and she's interviewed, I'm like, wow, there's a politician I agree with. This is
right.
She's very intelligent and well spoken. She just doesn't seem to have a lot of clout, which if you're going to be the left party and if you're going to try to take power away from even the centrist party or the right party, I think you need a lot more in your face kind of attitude. And I just...
Does Trudeau have that?
No, God, no. I never thought he did.
What's his name? Jagpreet Singh?
Yeah, Jagmeet Singh.
Jagmeet.
Yeah, no, I'm less than impressed with his leadership of the
He hasn't
NDP.
been, yeah.
No, what I'm saying is to sway people from their centrist or right-wing views.
Oh, yeah. How are you? God, it takes a really special skill to be able to do that, really.
Yeah, that's what I mean, just that clout, that
whatever you
presence.
I mean, I don't want to downplay. I actually do really like Jagmeet Singh in a lot of ways. Yep. I just don't find him to be a strong leader.
Worrisome for the future of the party.
You know who I wish would actually step up and either go into the NDP or the Green Party and try to look at leadership?
I want to know.
Our favorite mayor.
Yeah. I love him.
Yeah.
He would be a fantastic fucking prime minister. He's realistic,
right,
he cares about people, and he listens to the common people.
Yeah.
Get reelected over and over again in a conservative city like Calgary. I mean, I feel like there's
Be doing something right, eh?
Yep. Well, like you hear back talking about the mayors of every other big city in the country and nothing about Nenshi. A couple
Except
couple
for
hits once in a while.
yeah, except for the extreme racists. They like to complain about him, but
that guy. He's gonna get going if he's gonna do federal politics.
I don't think he even has.
I don't think he has
interest in
any
it.
interest in it. Actually, I think he's been asked before, and I think who's gonna save us?
I'm afraid of the federal election in the States next year.
Yeah. So is everyone. What are you talking?
I'm not afraid of Trump winning. I'm afraid of who takes over for Trump in the Republican Party, and the divide on the left is still. It's like nobody learned anything.
This is it's frustrating when you see people both saying never Bernie and Bernie or bust. Like, I'm sorry, you have.
Oh my God,
you have
an
to pick.
octogenarian is not a good choice.
You have
know-
to pick somebody that everybody will get behind. You have to work in this.
Pick a person who is that old. I'm sorry, they're just too fucking old. No, no. I don't mean to say that old people can't contribute, blah blah blah, but it's the nature
You
of
just
the
don't like him
job.
because he's Jewish.
The nature of the job is it's up to 4 year and up to 8 year position, really, and you want to be able to elect your incumbent.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not realistic that he's gonna, like, it's just friggin' biology. Like, I'm sorry.
Jon Stewart 2020.
Sure, but he's never gonna run, so no. But even then, like, he doesn't actually have experience in government making policy. He makes jokes. Like I don't know that he would be better. Like, somebody like. I don't even know who's better. That what's his name? Pete Buttigieg. He's getting a lot of traction. He's kind of, I don't know. He's a thing.
He's
better than Trump.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that could be anyone's slogan, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. The thing is, I'm iffy on a lot of them.
He's a mayor, though. That guy's a mayor who, I don't know. He's young. He's well spoken. Like, he definitely seems like a politician.
Yeah.
He doesn't. I don't know, but at least he's better than Trump.
Yeah, any of them, really.
It would be better. I don't know. There's, what's her name? Kamala Harris.
Who hasn't said yay or nay yet.
Oh.
She's all right in
I
some
thought she's
ways.
running.
She hasn't actually. Last I heard, she had said that she hadn't decided for sure if she was or not.
I think she's since
Put her head in.
in it. Yeah.
As a former prosecutor, I mean, she knows the law. She she might appeal to more conservative people because prosecutors prosecute criminals, right? So that law and justice side of the thing,
that's true.
It might help appeal to those voters. I don't know. I don't know. Elizabeth Warren, I've always kind of supported for a while, but like, she doesn't seem to be doing so well right now. Like,
she doesn't have the support right now, eh?
You need a Texan.
I don't want Beto. Beto can go fuck himself.
You need a Texan with a truck and a dog and a wife.
That's Beto, but
that just makes you think America when you look at him. That also happens to be left wing.
Right, yeah.
Because that's the only way you're going to get the Republicans behind you.
That's true.
I'd love to see a woman president. You're not going to get any Republicans behind you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Depressing situation.
The real trouble is that Elizabeth Warren is smarter than
everybody. In Canadian in politics. Yes,
like she's
passionate. She really seems to care.
Yeah, like
she gives a shit.
She's
awesome.
Also not
she's
that
brilliant.
Young
enough,
and she won't win.
She has a charisma issue. Like, she has a And I don't think is it a woman issue? Is it that it's harder for women to kind of hit that sweet spot? I don't know. She kind of gets
worried that it is, and that's and that there's almost no way to overcome
She
that.
has this thing about she'll stick her foot in her mouth,
that's true.
away, like the whole Pocahontas thing and the whole. Like, I don't know, they were making fun of her on late night because she was like, "Hey," as an answer to a question. Like, it's just.
The trouble is, like, when women are in the spotlight like that, if they're judged for everything.
And most harshly by other women.
Okay, Yeah, but you know what?
And
The
for a
thing
lot of
is,
things.
if you look at women, there's fewer women to choose from. The number of people who are going to be charismatic and able to fundraise and,
Oprah,
the
2020.
blah, blah, blah. Like the people who are able to do this are going to be a very small fraction of probably, for the most part, pre-existing politicians. And pre-existing politicians are dominated by white men. So it's just, there's lots of white men who are also not good, and everyone agree. It's just the chances of hitting on that person being a woman, is just, how many times has there been a charismatic black person who can run for president in a way that's believable, right? In a way that's an actual they're actually a candidate, right? Once it's been a one-off, right? And not because black people can't, or there's no such thing as
Right.
It's because the field you're choosing from at that point is dominated by white men. Like that's just how it is. So you're just statistically you're not going to hit that person.
Not just that it's dominated, because the parties actually look at what's likely to win. Before they even look at who, it's what.
There's primaries, right? There's people who get to, that's how this system works. In the end, there's delegates, blah, 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 but primaries are voted by average humans, right?
that's the thing. You've also got Cory Booker, who is a charismatic person but he's also got issues, where there's lots of, connection to Wall Street and stuff. He really almost won me over when I was listening to him interviewed on Pod Save America. But again, it's they all are really good in a lot of ways, but they also have these pitfalls that can really stop them up and can be used as this, hey, we don't like this guy.
Do you remember when you first heard about Obama? The way that, because it was kind of a little bit of a groundswell. You kind of heard a little bit about him. All right. And then the first time you really heard him talk, you're wow, this guy could really,
right.
You know what I mean? He could just kind of grow something in you or in people. He's great at speaking, and he was just great at connecting. Yeah, he was great at connecting.
He still has that even.
Oh yeah. But I'm just saying you need someone like that, and it's a rare quality, especially in somebody who's qualified to do the damn job. You have to decide to go and be a lawyer and a politician and blah blah blah. It's not, I'm sure there's lots of great people like that who are teachers and whatever, business people and blah blah blah. But you kind of, the
not
background,
trying to be president.
The background of the person who does this tends to be.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the primaries, I agree with that, but also the parties will determine if they're going to back somebody. The party itself.
Look at how much it didn't matter that the Republican Party did not want Donald Trump to be their candidate. Look at how much that did not matter.
But they already put their money behind him, and then as a joke originally, or whatever reason they had for supporting his run, when it was between him and all the other candidates. But
on the other hand, in the Democrat Party, Hillary Clinton was so clearly a poor choice for candidate. In terms of how she would be received by voters. She was not popular. There was people who were going to Trump specific or to whatever Republican candidate because they were so against Hillary Clinton. She was they just couldn't stomach another Clinton, and it seems to me like the Democrat Party bullied her in a lot of ways. She had just.
Well, they sort of did.
She had so much support of the establishment.
Because she was their pick.
She was their pick.
So
and she bullied that in.
Yeah. So she was pushed in a lot of ways.
I wouldn't say she was pushed in. She's always been fighting to get in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah.
But
she flip-flopped more than the fish that died in the park here than the carp here.
Yeah,
They were.
When?
Before they were floating.
That's true.
All right. We might as well close this out, though.
More fish talk.
More fish talk, hey? Hey, folks, it's just Cory here, inserting a little bit at the end of this conversation. During this next ad break, before we go to the outro, I'm going to add in a song from Dave's new project, Femme Fragile. It's really good, and they don't have anything quite yet where you can find it to purchase or stream, but Dave said that you can follow them on Instagram, and their Insta is Femme Fragile Music. I'll include a link to that in the show notes And it will be streaming available on May 3rd. So look for it on various streaming services on May 3rd. This is Femme Fragile, and the song is Save Yourself.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us keep the lights on, go become a patron at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. You can hear the bonus half hour that we record every episode and get a shout out when you support the show. Become a patron for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. Or you can support the show by ordering a t-shirt, mug or other gear from our store at caffeepress.ca/Brainstorm Podcast Gear. If you can't afford to become a patron or buy gear, then why not give us a rating or write a review on iTunes or Stitcher? Every rating makes it easier for people to find us. Thanks for your support.
Late If your skepticism is socially conscious and doesn't take itself too seriously, you might like Life, the Universe, and Everything Else.
Also, I shouldn't have to say it, but vaccines don't cause autism, and Andrew Wakefield is human garbage.
As we've covered on, I feel like, half of our shows.
We could just start every show with that statement. Andrew Wakefield is garbage, you are listening to Life, the Universe, and Everything Else.
No, it would have to be Andrew Wakefield is garbage, fuck capitalism. You're listening to Life, the Universe, and Everything Else.
Life, the Universe, and Everything Else. Available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else.
For all the things, you can check out the show notes at our website, brainstormblog.net, and our hosting page, thebrainstormpodcast.com. Thanks to our financial supporters, Magnus, Stephanie, Bob Glenn, the Utah Outcasts, Zach, Kayla, Freethinker215, and H. Simpson support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Keith, Jesse, Peter, Kim, Larry, Driffa, Rob, Richard, Daryl, Aaron, Destin doesn't suck that much, and the Flying Spaghetti Monster, sauce be upon him. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. Or you can do a one-time donation at paypal.me/brainstormpodcast. Or go get t-shirts at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. Our next live show is planned for May 10th, and our guest will be Yvette D'Entremont, a.k.a. the Psy Babe. So stay tuned for that, and if you don't already follow her, then head over to her website, thepsybabe.com, to see what she's about. I want to give a special thanks to Tom Curry for joining us on the Skeptic Studio portion. You can find more of his stuff at dissonancepod.com. Thanks to Dave for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabinowitz from Embrace the Void for doing the voiceover for our intro. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Kepper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Camo for the outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. What?
Just made noise.
What? I want to apologize for the lack of bonus content with the full crew lately. We always seem to run into some kind of roadblock, but we will do that eventually. More bonus content.
Keanu Reeves, 2020.
Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, share the show, and spread the word. The more you share, comment, and like our stuff, the more it helps the show grow. Thanks for joining me. Thank you for listening, and remember, the truth matters.